So we have started with module 5, which is on RTOS and IDE for embedded system design. And in previous classes, we have already discussed about the operating system basics, types of operating systems, task, process, and threads. And uh, so let's continue with. And now today we'll discuss about thread preemption and preemptive task scheduling techniques. So let's start with thread preemption. So thread preemption is the act of preempting the currently running thread. So now this preempting means nothing but stopping the currently running thread temporarily. So we know that in a particular operating system there can be many processes or many threads will be running at the same time. Okay, so we have seen that a particular process can be in ready state, can be in running state, okay, like that. So different state that particular thread or the process can be. So we can stop a particular thread temporarily and we can give a chance to the another thread to run, to use the CPU. So that is what we are saying. Preempting means stopping the currently running thread temporarily. Thread preemption ability is solely dependent on the operating system. The thread preemption is performed for sharing the CPU time among all the threads. So as I said, there can be many threads. So the sharing the CPU time among all this thread, we can use thread preemption. The execution switching among threads are known as thread context switching. Thread context switching is dependent on the operating system scheduler and the type of threads. Okay, so context switching means we are switching from one thread to another. We are giving the CPU time for this thread, and this particular thread is running or using the CPU, and another thread is performing some other operation. Okay, so this is done by the scheduler. Okay, so when we say thread, it falls into any one of the following type. So the threads can be of user thread or the user level thread. A user level thread do not have kernel or operating system support, and they exist solely in the running process. User level threads of a process are non-preemptive at thread level from OS perspective. Okay, so now user level threads are non-preemptive. So we'll discuss what is this preemptive and non-preemptive. So basically, so user level threads do not have the operating system support and they solely exist in the running process. Okay, and they are non-preemptive. Then we have the kernel system level threads. The kernel level threads are individual unit of execution which the OS treats as a separate threads. The OS interrupts the execution of the currently running kernel thread and switch the execution to another kernel thread based on the scheduling policies implemented by the OS. So that is what. Now this scheduling of this particular threads is possible in the kernel or a system level threads. So OS will interrupt any particular thread and it will give the authority to the another thread to use the CPU. Okay, so that switching of the threads or assigning the priority of the thread will be done in this kernel level threads by the operating system. It depends on the policies of the operating system. So there are different there are different ways of scheduling this particular threads. So we'll be discussing that in more detail. The another type is many to one model. So here many user level threads are mapped to a single kernel thread. Then we have one to many model. In one to many model, each user level thread is bonded to a kernel system level thread. Okay, and many to many model. In this model, many user level threads are allowed to be mapped to any kernel thread, to many kernel threads. Okay, so these are the different types of threads we have. Now let's discuss about the preemptive scheduling. So as we said, Primitive scheduling is employed in the systems which implements primitive multitasking model. Okay, in primitive scheduling, every task in the ready queue gets a chance to execute. Okay, when and how often each process gets a chance to execute, nothing but gets the CPU time, is dependent on the type of primitive scheduling algorithm used for scheduling the processes. So that's what. Now what we discussed previously, the threads, many threads are running. So if many threads are in the ready queue or many processes are in the ready queue, we need to decide which process will go first, because the CPU time we need to allocate for that particular process or a thread. So this is depend on this primitive scheduling algorithm, okay, to schedule this particular process. So in primitive scheduling, now we can assign this particular we can use this particular scheduling algorithm and we can schedule the particular process on threads. So the opposite is non-primitive, where we will not be able to this schedule this particular threads. So like basically in primitive scheduling, every task in a ready queue will get a chance to execute. So that is not happen in a non-primitive scheduling. So just try to understand this. Primitive scheduling, every task in a ready queue will get a chance to execute. Okay. So in this kind of scheduling, the scheduler can preempt the currently executing task or a process and select another task from the ready queue for execution. Okay. So simple. So if this particular scheduler can stop a particular process or a thread, that's what we were saying, primitive. Okay, so stop temporarily and assign another process or a task in the ready queue for execution. Okay, the two important approaches adopted in a primitive scheduling are time-based preemption and priority-based preemption. Okay, so we'll discuss this type of approach where it is time-based preemption and where it is priority-based preemption. So time-based means depend on the time you are stopping that particular thread or process, and priority-based means depend on the priority you have assigned to the threads. Based on that, you are stopping the current thread or a process and then assigning the CPU time to the another process or thread. So clear with this? So let's discuss a primitive SJF scheduling or shortest running time. SJF means shortest job first. So shortest remaining time or shortest job first. So based on time, now we are deciding which particular process will go first. So the primitive SJF scheduling algorithm sorts the ready queue when a new process enters the ready queue and check whether the execution time of the new process is shorter than the remaining of the total estimated time for the currently executing process. Now what basically we are saying, there are many tasks or a process, they are in a ready queue, means they are ready to execute. Now at a time only one can go to execute or one can use the CPU, right? So who is going to decide who will go? So the operating system is going to decide, and this particular algorithms in the operating system are going to decide. Okay, so we are discussing one of that, which is primitive shortest job first scheduling. So here, in every time a particular new process is entering in the ready queue, the algorithm will check who is requiring minimum a lesser time to execute. Okay, so in the queue checks whether the execution time of the new process is shorter than the remaining of the total estimated time for the currently executing process. So one process is running, at the same time the another process come into a ready queue. So now the ready queue, it will check whether the new process required lesser time or the currently running process required the lesser time, and depend on that it will decide the who will go first. Okay, so if the execution time of the new process is less, the currently executing process is preempted. Okay, because new process required less time. So that's what the name we are saying, shortest remaining time or the shortest job first. So the one who is required less time will go first. That is decided. Okay. So if the new one coming into the ready queue is required less time, then it will stop the currently running process. Okay, and it will assign schedule, and the new process is scheduled for the execution. So thus preemptive SJF scheduling always compares the execution completion time. Okay, it is same as the remaining time for the new process of a new process entered the ready queue with the remaining time for completion of the currently executing process, and schedule the process with the shortest remaining time for execution. Okay, so simply if there are many processes in the ready queue, so it will check first who is taking the lesser time. So that particular process will go first for the execution. It will be scheduled first for the execution. Okay, then the next one which is taking lesser time, next the which is taking lesser time. Okay, so that's how they will schedule that particular processes. But if suddenly a new process entered in a ready queue, then again that queue, it will check whether the currently running process is left with the time which is more, or the new process entered which will take less time. So the one which is taking lesser time to execute will go first. Okay, see, you will be cleared with the example. So let's discuss one example. You will be more clear about what is shortest job first. Okay, so if there are three processes with the process IDs P1, P2 and P3, which estimated completion time 10 sorry completion time 10, 5, 7 milliseconds respectively, enters the ready queue together. Okay, now these are the three processes enters the ready queue together, which are taking P1 takes 10 millisecond, P2 takes 5 millisecond time, P3 takes 7 millisecond time to execute. A new process P4 with the estimate completion time of 2 millisecond enters in a ready queue after 2 milliseconds. Okay, now this P1, P2, P3 are initially was there. Okay, now P4 enters after 2 millisecond. So assume all the processes contain only CPU operation and no IO operations are allowed. So all are there, all are waiting for the CPU only. Okay, calculate the average waiting time and average turnaround time. So this we need to calculate. So first we need to understand how to draw this particular diagram, where we can easily check how much time each particular process is taking and what sequence the process are getting executed. So let's understand this. So we are discussing a shortest job first, means the process which is gonna take lesser time will get the first chance to use the CPU. Okay, so now we have first P1, P2, P3. Okay, P1 takes 10 milliseconds, P2 takes 5 milliseconds, P3 takes 7 milliseconds. Okay, so initially we have only this three. So in this three, which one is taking lesser time? P2 is taking the lesser time, right? So that's why we can see that. That's why we can see that here P2 is coming first. Okay, now P2 required 5 milliseconds. Okay, P2 required 5 milliseconds, but after, so P2 start executing. So after 2 milliseconds, the P4 is entering in the queue. So queue get refreshed. So now P4 is coming into the picture. How much time P4 required? 2 milliseconds. Okay, and the currently running task is P2, which still remaining with how many milliseconds? 2 milliseconds it has done, but 3 milliseconds it more required. Right? So P2 requires 3 milliseconds, P4 required 2 milliseconds. So who is taking lesser time? P4. So that's why this the shortest job algorithm will be used, and who will get the chance? P4 will get the chance to execute now. P4 will get the chance to execute rather than P2. So now P4 start executing. So P4 will take 2 milliseconds. So this 2 plus 2, it becomes 4 here. Okay. So After that, now again, who is having lesser time? P2 only. So how much time is left? 3 milliseconds for execution. So next task will come of P2 and it will take 3 more milliseconds. So 4 plus 3 is totally 7. So once at the time of 7 milliseconds, who all are over? P2 and P4 both are over. Okay. Now who are in the picture left? P1 and P3. So who is taking lesser time in that two? P3 is taking lesser time, which is 7 milliseconds. So this 7 plus 7 millisecond, it is 14 milliseconds. So once at the age of 14 millisecond, only who is left? P1 is left. How much time it will take? 10 milliseconds. P1 is left 10 milliseconds. So 14 plus 10, it is 24. So now we have drawn this particular diagram based on the algorithm's rule. So what shortest job first is telling us, the one who is required lesser time will go first, even if that particular is entering later, and the current job is which current process is running will require more time than the new one. So the first new one will get the chance, and then the remaining time of execution will be done by the currently running. So it has stopped P2, give a chance to P4 because it takes less time, and then again continue with P2. Understood? So based on this, now we need to calculate this average waiting time and average turnaround time. So once if you have done correctly this particular diagram, you can easily find out what is the average waiting time and what is the average turnaround time. So you can see here the waiting time. So waiting time for P2. So now how much waiting time for P2? So how much time P2 has waited to complete his task? So initially it has started directly, so there was no waiting. So initially P2 only got the chance, so 0. But when P4 enters, P2 has stopped. So for how much time? Sorry, P2 is stopped 2 to 4. So how much? 2 milliseconds, right? 4 minus 2. So P2 is 4 minus 2 plus 0. So that is 2 milliseconds. Now for P4, how much waiting time P4? P4 has entered, as soon as it entered, the shortest job first decided that P4 required the shortest time, so it it got the execution, it got the CPU time as soon as it enters into the queue. So P4 doesn't require to wait, so 0 milliseconds, right? P4 doesn't require, so 0 milliseconds. Then we have P3. So when P3 come into the picture, so once P2, P4, so P3 started at what particular time? 7 milliseconds. At particular 7 milliseconds. So how much time it has to wait to come? His chance is 7 milliseconds. So waiting time for P3 is 7 milliseconds. Similarly, waiting time for P1 is 14 milliseconds because P1 start after 14 milliseconds. So total waiting time, right? Waiting time for all the processes upon the number of processes. So we know that the waiting time for all the processes divided by number of process. So we come with 23 by 4, which is 5.75 milliseconds. So average waiting time is 5.75 milliseconds. Understood? Then is turnaround time. Now what is turnaround time? Turnaround time is nothing but time spent in a ready queue plus execution time. Spend in the ready queue means waiting time. Okay. So that plus execution time. So P2, how much was the waiting? 2 milliseconds, right? And how much is the execution time? 5 milliseconds. So 5 plus 2 is 7. Okay. Similarly, for P4 enters as soon as got a chance. So waiting time or ready queue time was 0 plus execution time 2 milliseconds, which was given, right? So similarly for P3, what was the waiting time? 7 milliseconds, just now we have seen, and the execution time is 7, so 14. Okay. Then waiting time for P1 was 14 milliseconds plus the execution time is 10, so total turnaround time is 24 milliseconds. So average, again, total turnaround time of all the process divided by the number of process. So we got 47 by 4, which is nothing but 11.75 milliseconds. So this is how we have calculated the average turnaround time and the average waiting time for primitive SJF scheduling. Primitive SJF, shortest